That's a very big question. Do you have time for the short or for the long answer? For the medium length? Okay. Well, basically that is the question that I've been asking myself for at least as long as I can remember, and is without any doubt the question that prompted me on that journey of self-exploration and growth, which nowadays manifests itself as the work that I do for people and the growth that I enable in them. But on a more conventional level, I'm Martin, originally born in Bulgaria, have been in the UK for over 10 years now, travel more and more around the world to meet and work with clients nowadays, and I'm passionate about helping people ultimately be more and realize their full potential. Is this about my personal journey? Yeah? Where shall I start? From the beginning, okay. Well, let's start at age 7, when I saw for the first time in my life episode 4 of Star Wars. And that was the beginning of a remarkable journey. The idea of the Jedi and the Force permeating the universe struck a chord deep with me because of that idea of being able to develop yourself to the utmost and do something meaningful for the rest of the world, for other people as well, just like a Jedi. And being fascinated with that idea, even when I was playing with other children in our backyard, I would embrace the idea of a Jedi Master, and I would have Padawans and I would train them in the ways of the Force. So I suppose that was really the beginning of my, for lack of a better word, coaching career back in the days. And then a bit later, when I was in my teen years, a very good friend of mine gave me a book as a present, and that book was a book by John Kehoe talking about the power of the subconscious mind. And clearly these ideas were already bubbling within me, given that the book had such a profound effect. But it was around age 16, so a long time ago, when I began to really discover and apply the principles of using the power of my mind to transform my own life and subsequently the lives of others. And around that time began the other main undercurrent of my journey in the things that I do, which is about health. So when I was 18, I was obese, poor health, struggling to make contact and to have the relationships that I wanted to have at that time. And I just realized that I had to change something, otherwise I wouldn't be able to have a really fulfilling life. And it's around that time when I started going to the gym, started exploring a variety of dietary interventions to help me lose weight, which then exploded and picked up much more momentum at university, where although I was studying business, a lot of my time was spent in the gym. A lot of my spare time was spent researching various fitness and nutrition topics so that I can build that understanding that I have now, and helps me help myself, and more importantly helps me help the people that I work with. And then again, towards the end of my university years, during a very difficult period in my last year, when I was applying for graduate jobs, when I was working on my dissertation, and at the same time I had my wisdom teeth growing, so I was unable to sleep at all. So I was experiencing a lot of suffering, to borrow the Buddhist terminology. And this is when I discovered the teachings of Buddhism, and in particular the idea of mindfulness and being fully present with what you're experiencing. And this is something that has been with me ever since, and has been growing more and more, and it has become a prominent part of my work. So it's really these two main trends then, the idea of using your mind to be the master of your own destiny and to accomplish the things that you want to do, and the idea of improving your health in a holistic level on all grounds. That has been the essence of my journey, and has been what is enabling me to do the work that I'm doing. Or you want me to talk about my grandmother? Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. So my grandmother was certainly the person that has made the most for me growing up. She was my primary carer, cooking for me, helping me with education and all that good stuff. And perhaps she was a bit over caring because thanks to the delicious meals that she was cooking for me, I grew obese. I was over 200 pounds, or approximately 100 kilograms, just a couple of kilos shy of that. So and then later on, she wasn't taking very good care of herself, let's put it that way. And around 2013-14, her health started deteriorating, and unfortunately I lost her to heart disease. And that was a difficult period for me, but then again I used it as just another opportunity to strengthen my commitment and determination to help as many people as I can with my work, to be as healthy as possible, to be able to take care of their own health so that they don't have to go through what my grandmother went through, and so that their relatives wouldn't have to live without them. That's a good question. The answer is that I didn't. I always was. As I was saying, from age 7, I would coach other kids around the block about how to be a good Jedi. Later in high school, whenever I learned something new, I would just share it, teach people how to do it. And then early mid-university years, it was really becoming more obvious that this is something that I do well, and people would come to me and ask me how to design an effective workout schedule, how to improve their diet in the least painful and obtrusive way. I would get some mentoring in the particular field from some of my professors, and in exchange I would train them in the gym, and also I would just introduce them to the idea of mindfulness so that they can be more grounded in their life. And going a couple of years later, when I had my successful corporate career as a communications manager at HSBC, when I began realizing that I wouldn't get the fulfillment that I'm looking for into that particular field, instead of deciding to become a coach, I realized this is what I've been doing my whole life. This is where the majority of my free time goes in terms of investing in developing myself, upskilling myself, and helping others. So it was just the most natural transition. What is unique about my approach and my offer? Well, I'd like to think that anyone who is doing coaching work and providing service for a high level senior people like I do has something unique to offer. So what is unique about my particular offer is that it's very holistic, without telling you too much about my flagship program, but basically it has 6 different modules on key areas, including a way of eating, including exercise, discipline, leadership skills, mindset, very importantly. But the idea is that I cannot guarantee success to anyone unless they're willing and able to invest their whole self into the program. Yes, we are going to begin and address their immediate concerns, but the long-term consistent success really comes by completing as much as possible of the core curriculum of my flagship program, and then applying that to as many areas of their lives as possible. That's why some of my long-term clients, I have people with whom we have worked for over 5 years. I have people that finish their original core 6-month initial program, and then we continue working perhaps once a month. But the longer we work, the more exponential their growth becomes, if that makes any sense. So coming back to the original question, what makes my approach unique is that supporting framework of online training and materials that we have, the long-term commitment, the fact that we're approaching the whole of the person's life, and very importantly, the unique incentive structure where people are not simply paying me to get them results, but they're paying themselves to do what they want to do. Why should anyone trust me? That's an excellent question, and the answer to that is they shouldn't. Above all, people that I work with, my core message is the only person that you, and again, it's not a should, it's a must, the only person that you must trust is yourself. You know your own life best, you know what is right for you. I'm merely here to support you, to give you the tools, to give you some guidance around how to make the most of the skills and knowledge that you already have. Big inspirations, is that in any particular field? Just in general? Okay. Well, when it comes to the field of health and fitness, I've spent so many thousands of hours doing research, applying it on myself, on the people that I work with, that it's very difficult to identify any individual contributors. But the field of natural hygiene, extremely important. The way of thinking in terms of different species and what they're adapted to eat in order to thrive. And then the work of pioneers like Doug McGuff and Drew Bay in the high-intensity training field when it comes to health and fitness. And then when it comes to coaching, of course, Tony Robbins, I think, sets the bar for excellence when it comes to enabling transformation on a deep level. And then when we're talking more about the mindfulness aspect of things, certainly the work of John Kabat-Zinn has been tremendously helpful in empowering and keeping my own journey and my growth consistent over the years. On the more spiritual side, certainly the work of psychologist turned into mystic Dr. David Hawkins, may he rest in peace, has been tremendously influential in terms of understanding the different scales of consciousness and in terms of understanding the effective tools to transcend your limitations so that you can essentially be willing to confront the big questions and go beyond the linear paradigm of Newtonian physics, make that quantum leap and be willing to open yourself to much more than you currently believe is possible. Well, the one that comes to mind is that I tend to be very blunt, very direct sometimes, most of the time. And don't get me wrong, that tends to work very well for the majority of the situations, for most of the people that I work with, but it can rub some people the wrong way. So you see, my tolerance for bullshit or for not being honest with yourself or others is limited or non-existent. So whenever I see something, I always speak up. I challenge that. I ask the right questions, and for some small fraction of people that can be a bit overwhelming, but for the majority of the people it works well. Oh, you want me to share another weakness? Well, I tend to be very extreme in my own personal approach. So we have talked about that before, but I can clearly say that I've experienced pretty much the whole spectrum of things that life have to offer in an earlier stage before focusing my attention more and more on health and fitness. I was drinking very heavily. Then I had a period of a couple of years of total abstinence, not a single drink in a long time. When I was much younger, I had a lot of fun and a lot of great times with a variety of girls and women that I was dating at that time. And then later on in my life, influenced by the teachings of some of the spiritual traditions, as you know, I spent nearly 2 years being completely celibate, not even touching myself, and diet, yet another field. So I've been raw vegan for a couple of years. I was raw carnivore for several months, from low carb, from low protein, low fat diets to zero carb diets. Well, basically, you name it, I've done it. From eating one meal a day, fasting for 24, 36 hours, to eating 6-7 meals a day. So I have experienced all the extremes in most conceivable areas in life. And I think that's actually very helpful now that given that I've been teaching other people and helping them and coaching them for the past decade or so, having seen the extremes of life, having seen some of their upsides, some of their downsides, now I'm able to be much more balanced in my approach, in the things that I do, and in finding the solutions that will work consistently and long term for the people that I work with. Anything else? Anything to conclude? Well, I think we covered quite a lot of ground today, but what I really want to leave the people watching this with is the idea that I'm not an expert, I'm not a guru, I'm merely someone to be as clean as possible, a mirror and a springboard for you, so that you can begin realizing the tremendous potential that you have, and that you can certainly be much more than what you currently are. And this is not to say that there is anything wrong with anyone, or that they're not perfect as they already are, because that is the case. It's just that part of that perfection is that infinite potential for growth and the infinite potential for realizing much more in your life. And ultimately, I always like to conclude most of the things that I do, certainly my days and certainly this interview as well, with some thoughts of gratitude, at least 3 things. And first of all, I'm grateful for all the difficulties and challenges, regardless of whether we're talking about events or people that I've had in my life, because they have been tremendous teachers for me, tremendous opportunities to learn and grow for them. I am hugely grateful for the support of the friends and people in my life, challenging me when I'm going to extremes, and also providing the support and encouragement when I need it as well. And also going with that are the mentors and the coaches that I've worked with and I still do, because I think it will be dishonest to be talking about the tremendous benefits and value of coaching if I was not experiencing that myself with the spiritual mentors that I have, with the business coach that I'm working with on a regular basis. And the final thing that I'm grateful for, and I would like to leave as a message, is huge thanks for the people that have trusted me over the years to be by their side and support them on their journey towards growth and development, because ultimately, if it's not for you, I wouldn't be here giving this interview. So thank you so much, and I hope to meet and work with many more of you. Take good care of yourself, and I'll speak with you soon.